I'm Johnathan Shaw, and for the last 3 years I've been running Triple Stripe Knives, and so I make custom knives here in my shop. And so I started because I started when I was 14, and I was really into knives. I've been into knives for a little bit, and being 14 I was really broke and I couldn't afford the knives that I wanted, but I could afford a little bit of materials, some tools like files and hacksaws and stuff. And I was like, I can either buy one knife that doesn't quite fit what I want, or I'd been drawing knives for a bunch, doing a lot of like designing, although looking back now they were kind of crap. But I was drawing lots of knives, like, I could just make a knife that would fit theoretically exactly what I wanted. And then it just kind of grew from there. And now 3 years later, I'm making a lot more knives, but I'm still just the young 14-year-old kid at heart that was broke and wanted to make knives. Generally just start like with an idea in my mind of kind of what I want it to look like, and especially like picking the materials. That's been one of my favorite parts of doing folders, and even when I was doing fixed blades more, I loved like kind of trying to come up with new material combinations or like liners and the main scale. And now with folders there's a lot more options for me to pick, and I start with an idea in my head of what kind of look I want it to have, or like what combinations I want to do, and then I look through my material stores and I'm like, I think that could fit, and then I go from there. My like work-life balance, as people say, is not super great. I spend probably more time than I should in my shop and working that compared to like how much time I spent with friends and doing stuff like that and kind of doing normal teenager things. But then for balancing school, I've been fairly strict, especially this year in grade 12, of like stopping work early, coming home, doing homework, and then just making sure I get everything done. So there's a huge community of knife makers and like collectors and stuff in Canada and internationally. I joined a Facebook group, obviously on Facebook, in 2021 or so, and it's called Canada Knife and Gear, CKG, and that really boosted my business in terms of the amount of people that were seeing my stuff, and I made a lot of cool connections with both makers and customers through there. Like for especially young people getting into the knife industry, of how like we can kind of change the knife industry and shape it for the better, is just keep on, especially when you're young and you're not as like tied to needing to get a paycheck in and needing to sell knives, is make cool stuff. Like come up with new innovative ways to like do things, new designs, new mechanisms, new like even just material combinations or materials that you're using. And I think that would, a lot more young people doing that would help shape the knife industry for the better in the next. Honestly, being young has really helped my knife making career, because it sets me apart from a lot of the other knife makers. Especially when I was just making fixed blades, there's a lot of other people making fixed blades, and a lot of them look the same. They're all equally good, and they're all like worthy knife makers in their own right, and I would have kind of just blended in with the rest of them. However, being young helped me kind of attract new people of like, hey look, there's this knife maker and he's making cool stuff, but also he's young. And so I would have said there haven't been many like negative parts of being a really young knife maker, other than in the beginning I needed to use my mom's credit card to buy stuff, and I'd have to like ask her, hey, can you like help me buy this, every single time I had to buy anything online. But yeah, other than that, being a young knife maker in the industry has been a really positive experience. I would entirely recommend any young person, if you have like any amount of free time or you can make free time, try it. Like the worst case scenario is you put like a few $100 into materials and like buy a little bit of tooling, you're like, you know, this isn't really for me. And then sure, maybe that's a bit of time wasted, a little bit of money lost. But if it is for you, it's an awesome community to be a part of, and just a really cool lifestyle to be able to do. I made awesome connections and lifelong friends with so many people in the industry, and it's had a huge impact on my life.